When Avatar first hit the big screen, it was a dazzling spectacle, a triumphant step forward into a new world of what could be possible in film. And what it may have lacked in a compelling or original story, it more than made up for in the visuals. Seeing that film at the cinema back then was truly astonishing, but part of me could never escape the feeling that it felt like a glorified VFX showcase. The film felt at times like it wanted to show off instead of tell a great story, and there is only so long you can be dazzled by a shiny thing before you start to lose interest. Enter Tron Ares. The third installment in this franchise this time comes directed by Joachim Running, who you may know from Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales. And what we have here is exactly the same problem I had with Avatar, only it's been amplified. Now, let me be clear, I don't dislike Avatar at all. I think it's a fine film, and more importantly, its sequel, Way of Water, I actually think is an incredible film because it finds a way to use its visuals to enhance its storytelling and emotional core. It pretty much fixes all the issues of the original and is perhaps the best 3D IMAX experience you can possibly have out there right now. But the Tron franchise is known for having similarly groundbreaking VFX. In fact, I think all three films suffer from the same issues as the first Avatar film. They are spectacle over story. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, it just depends what you're looking for. The first Tron is well known as being one of the first films ever to have extensive CGI, and I do like the first film. And even though I only saw it recently for the first time, it still felt fresh and exciting. Sure, the CGI can feel like a first draft at times, but there is a charm to it. An intrigue that keeps you invested despite its script overflowing with tech mumbo-jumbo. But Tron Legacy is a sequel which is loved by a lot of people, but it didn't quite work for me in the same way. Its script is pretty rough, and it's quite a poorly paced film. But the visuals, that gleaming neon blue grid looked stunning, and Daft Punk's now infamous score created a beat to traverse that world to. There is something to it, and even if I don't like the delivery, there is still a father and son story in there somewhere. Now, Tron Ares is the weakest in the franchise, falling further still from the flaws of the second film. However, like I said, it depends what you want out of this film. I've seen a lot of critics go off on this, it's been de-resed on arrival, and despite being the weakest, it's still not really a bad film to me. It's certainly not a good one, but I think it offers an experience that a lot of people will go to the cinema for. And you need to see this on the big screen because this will not work even a little bit on the sofa at home. This is a ride or die IMAX 3D experience. It's basically a Disney theme park ride. It's going to dazzle your senses, but you will stop thinking about it once you get off. And once you watch it, you will realize I think that's what this was designed to be from the start. The camera spins and flips and sways like a roller coaster ride, and almost all of the film is cut to a beat. It has the tightest editing of the three films and the best momentum to it, and when it starts flying, it's an overwhelming feast. It's loud, and it's the best kind of mindless action. It's all killer filler. It's blockbuster bubblegum, and I think if you go into this film with that mindset, you will enjoy the ride. It's got plenty of 3D printed set pieces that, because they inhabit our world now, you really do feel their sense of scale. Its luscious neon landscapes are perfect eye candy. The world looks like a billion boiled sweets, and Nine Inch Nails' score is the cherry on top, converting this film into a techno club night. This film feels like one epic music video. The problem just comes down to whether you want your experience to mean something. I do have a handful of criticisms whilst we are on the technical, because it is a 2-hour film and there is a much tighter 90-minute experience in here somewhere. The final act offers almost no new tricks, so it does really start to drag, and there's some really awkward ADR in here. More obvious lip syncing issues than I was expecting, but that's a smaller issue. But let's talk about the music, because I think that's why a lot of us are here. Nine Inch Nails might be my favorite band, so I have to confess I already knew the score off by heart before I went into this, and even though it's a Nine Inch Nails score and not a Trent and Atticus score, it's more in line with a Trent and Atticus score. Think Challengers mixed with Watchmen, but I would say it's not quite on the level of either of those. However, I enjoyed the music even more in the context of the film than I did as its separate soundtrack. It really does give this film that pulsating sense of momentum and swagger that you wanted. There is nods to the original Tron score in here too, which I thought were pretty beautiful. It's a score that delivers and feels like a character in and of itself, and I think this film's enjoyment is heavily reliant on the score succeeding, and luckily it does. The film's actual characters are all very one-note, to the point where honestly the humans blend with the programs in terms of personalities. Greta Lee, who is brilliant in Past Lives, does her absolute best with the post-it note I'm sure she was handed, which details her character on, but it's just not enough for me to care about her as a character. It's a film that's about two tech CEOs fighting for a MacGuffin that will be able to bring things into the real world from the grid. Everything just lacks a human feel. Everything is numbers and lines of code here. Most of the human scenes even have someone doing some kind of extreme typing, and it's frustrating because it does a lot of things well, but it just does not feel new, it does not feel original, and it has a lot of interesting themes in here, themes that are present right now. There's a lot of mention of AI, there's a lot of talk about the state in which the world needs AI, but they're all throwaway sentences, and they're never really explored and are not even properly infused within character motivations. The characters from the previous films are not here and are pretty much redundant to this story. And then you have Jared Leto, who was not the right choice for this film, I think. Real world qualities aside, he just feels uncanny, but not in the way I think the film wants him to be. And his program's transition to showing more human qualities just felt like a scene out of American Psycho. It's all very derivative and it just didn't work for me. But on the bright side, there is a bit of nice fan service that I won't spoil towards the end of the film, which I think changed up the pace a little bit and I did quite like. And Jeff Bridges does return for a cameo, and we do get a couple new Bridgesms.
Yeah.
But that's really kind of it. If you go into this looking for meaning, you will be disappointed. But I think films like this, like Avatar, are still important. You should go into this ready to ride the wave of awesome music and razor-sharp visuals. Despite what a lot of people are saying, there's a lot of fun to be had in this film. I just found myself stuck between a rock and a hard place. I wanted it to mean something, and even when it is referencing the original Tron, I just didn't feel almost any connection to this film. This film actually feels like a light cycle race. I felt every time we turned a corner, the film boxed itself back into another corner, and I was left thinking, wow, that was cool, but where do we go now? And that's kind of it from me on this. Please do let me know what you think of the film. Please consider subscribing and liking. It really does help the channel out, especially if you did enjoy this video. Please do excuse my voice. I'm just recovering from a bit of a cold. But all that's left to do now is to thank you very much for watching.